What's going on, wrestling fans? We're back for another week here on AEZ All Elite Zone. Matty G here, along with the bearded wolf, bruv, Adam Glexy. How are you doing, sir? And how's your week been so far?
It's been all right. I feel like there was a delay there in the opening because on my end it took a while for the video to start and then just finish while you were still talking. I don't know.
Oh.
It was weird.
Yeah, I kind of there's a bit of delay there, but here we are, another Tuesday night, episode 49. Wow, we're creeping up. I guess are we supposed to do something special for the 50th? I don't know. I guess we should put some thought into it, eh?
I mean, that's up to you. You run this game, my friend. I'm just here on the ride.
That's true. I know. I was going to say, I guess it's really up to me because you're like, hey, I got my own show to worry about. I'm just
I got
coming
my
on to
own
help
show to
you
worry about a lot. Yeah, that's for sure.
So how's the week been so far? How's work treating you? You're making it through another week?
Yeah, absolutely. I got a 3-day weekend coming up here because I will be out of town. Oh man, I might be driving up Thursday night during my show, so we got to figure that out too. I forgot to even mention that, but yeah, no, I'd be heading up north to go bowl a tournament on Friday, so we'll be leaving Thursday. So I don't know if I'll still be able to do my show. Maybe I'll do it from my car.
Yeah, how about that, eh? Can you imagine?
Yeah, traveling, talking elite.
Could you have like your screen there behind you while you're still driving? You still have
still driving the green screen. I can try.
No, that'd be awesome. No, it's been a pretty good week here. This weekend I celebrated my daughter's 6th birthday, so that was fun. Got her some nice things, and the favorite gift that I got her was some walkie-talkies.
Perfect.
Yeah, and these ones are cool. Got it's a 3-pack, right? Because she's got 2 other cousins. So I thought instead of the kids, killing themselves over, trying to share it, I'm like, I'll get a pack of 3. And these ones are pretty good. There's a 3-mile radius on these things.
Oh, nice.
And there's like a little light there. So that was, of all the things, I got her a remote control Barbie Cadillac. Which is actually a Hot Wheels Cadillac, but you can put like 2 Barbies in it. Nice big boat. But she said of all the things that she got, her favorite thing was the walkie-talkies that she's actually been asking for a while. So,
she's gonna be playing with those for a long time.
Yeah, I'm glad Dad could come through, with for the win on that one. So no, that was good. So I was happy to make her happy, and if she's happy, I'm happy. So, anyways, we're back for another week, another big week of professional wrestling, of course, and we'll touch on today. We can talk about what people are calling maybe the greatest AEW match of all time so far, and it's in its short history, which we had Ospreay and MJF last week on the 200th and 50th episode of Dynamite. Which was a banger for sure. And, we can touch on actually tomorrow night as we have the Blood and Guts episode of Dynamite leading the way to All In London. And I thought to just touch on, I've seen in some of the groups that people are starting to bring up so far, what are the best matches so far for 2024, in AEW. And surprise, surprise, bruv is probably in like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
I don't think so. That's a surprise. I think we could probably give him the. He'd be a tough sell. He could get the MVP for the year. For AEW, but he's coming off 2 losses in a row, so he's which is good. He had a big winning streak, and he's a man. He's a man about the business, and he's instead of being selfish, he lost. There's 2 losses in a row, and he lost his international championship, which I was a little surprised at. And I got to hand it to Tony Khan. He throws on some bangers on regular cable TV. Again, we're gonna that match. I thought again. I've been saying I thought for sure that match was going to be in Wembley, and if they had that match in Wembley, like my God, that would have been a great pay-per-view match. And that was a great match. And tomorrow night we've got Blood and Guts with that match, which again could be if that was that was WWE, 100% that would be on a pay-per-view or premium live event, as now it is referred to in the universe of WWE. But I digress there. But again, just wanted to touch on that with that match, and I think Dave Meltzer actually gave it like a 5-star, or very close to it. He was actually figured he he's actually kind of claiming that so far is the best match in AEW. And one of the things that he really talked about was the fact that they were able to do the finish down, what, 58 or 59 minutes and 58 seconds was
Something
spent.
like that. Yeah, 59 minutes, 58
59
seconds.
minutes? Yeah, 50.
Yeah, 2 seconds to spare.
Yeah, and he said, it's a lot of time when matches are done like that, they'll still do it, but you don't really know, right? They'll still kind of like, but apparently these guys had it bang on, and they actually had it timed, and they actually within the real time limit. Where he said, we've had other matches, but it just hasn't been that close. But yeah, I thought it had a bit of everything. I'll hand it over to you first, Adam, to give some of your thoughts and feelings on that match.
I honestly thought it was probably the best hour-long opening match in any professional wrestling history. And that says a lot with the MJF Brian Danielson match that happened on Dynamite. There was a Kenny Omega match with Daniel Bryanson that went the full hour with a draw. We've obviously saw the Adam Cole MJF feud go an hour to a draw. I believe this is like the first match in AEW that I can remember that didn't go to the time limit draw, and it actually ended right before the time was up. I love the way that they did that. Again, I love the fact that it was MJF winning on a heelish tactic with the diamond ring. And yeah, I'm going to agree with you on Will Ospreay. Since he's come into AEW, he has been putting on banger matches. And I do agree, if he continues doing that, if we get another good banger match at Wembley against whoever he wants to wrestle at Wembley, I think towards the end of the year, when I believe it's both PWI do it and a lot of these other wrestling magazines and articles, they do their year-end awards, you might see Will Ospreay as number one. There may be an argument of WWE wrestler that might be number one, someone like a Cody Rhodes. But honestly, Will Ospreay has been putting in the work, and I'm a big fan. I loved his stuff in New Japan. I remember when he first showed up in AEW, I was like, "Who's this guy?" And then, not first in AEW. I'm sorry, New Japan. I saw him in New Japan. I'm like, "Who's this like guy from the UK, like in New Japan, mixing it up with these Japanese guys, like just that are brutal, and he's a high flyer." I would have been like, "Oh, you should see him in Lucha Libre or something like that." But no, he actually mixed well with New Japan, and I think his style mixed well, and he's doing really well. And like I said, I think that match was just the epitome of it, and you just see it. And again, MJF and Will Ospreay really used their time well in that 60 minutes. And I honestly think that, again, we didn't talk about it because we talked about last Thursday about what the numbers were for that first hour. We didn't see that for the quarterly, but I wouldn't put it past me that those numbers were very good for that first hour.
Yeah, no, I heard that the numbers for the whole episode was like the highest it's been since April. From what I'm sure the internet doesn't lie. So, whatever I did see there, but that would make sense. That I thought was a great show. Great way to kick off. It's like the opening slot is like the new. I know it's funny. At the end, they always say the last match. They'll always say, "Now, time for our main event." But it's either you want to be on first or you want to be on last, and they either slot, right? But that was a banger. That really should have been. That should have been, I guess, a main event. But then again, you couldn't have had it start, because then wouldn't make sense. Because I think people would have caught on to it, going like, "Wait a second, there's an hour left in the show, and you're starting the main event now." And then you're like, "Oh, okay, that's what they're doing." But the fact that they put it on first, you didn't know that. You didn't know that it was potentially going to now go to like the hour, right? So I can see why they did put it on first. And what a banger of a match. Now, would you say right now Will Ospreay is the best wrestler, like I'll say the world, or you just say even North America from what we're watching. Or I don't know, where do you put him ranked with MJF? Because MJF is up there right now, and he's a Iron Man match guy now too. I mean, he's been in, like, you rhymed off a few of these already. So, and I know he did win, but again, he won by using the ring and the heelish kind of the finish there. I don't know. How do you feel? Do you think if someone said, "Yep, Will Ospreay, #1 wrestler in the world right now," would you agree with that?
Right now, I would. Yes. For my list, again, I might throw some controversy in this list, but Will Ospreay would be my #1 right now. #2 would be an MJF. #3 would be Cody. And #4, I'm doing my top 5 right now. #4 would be 4 and 5 are really close for me on the list of best wrestlers right now, because 4 and 5 is pretty much a tie between 3 people, and that includes Swerve Strickland, Gunther, and Jay Uso. So I mean, it's very hard. So you see right there in the top 5, I've got a mix of AEW and WWE guys. But I undoubtedly now, with the matches and the streak that he's had with the matches he's had, Will Ospreay, by far none right now, is probably the best wrestler going right now in the sport of professional wrestling. I don't care what people say about, oh, but what about WWE? You got Cody Rhodes, and but they're rehashing a storyline with the new bloodline. Someone's like, oh, what about TNA? We got some good people in TNA. Like Joe Hendry is starting to catch on with people. I'm like, yeah, but he's got a long way to go.
Right.
Someone like, oh, LA Knight, I'd be like, yeah, he's in that tail end of his career. He might win a mid-card title, but is he really worthy of a world title? So I think right now what you're looking at is the evolution of someone like a Will Ospreay coming over and doing something for a company like AEW. I mean, even just look at AEW. Not only him, but you bring in Okada, you bring in Mercedes Moné, Adam Copeland when he gets back from injury. I mean, you still got some good star power over in AEW, and you got some good star power in WWE. So I think, again, I always say it's just a really good time to be alive in pro wrestling because you got all these good, talented professional wrestlers. And again, Will Ospreay to me is bar none right now, unless something changes midway through this year. Right now, he's #1 for me right now for best wrestler of the year right now.
Yeah, you know what? I would agree. I 100% agree with you right now, for sure. Maybe maybe we're a little biased because we're exposed to him a little more, and they're setting him up in some great matches. I'm sure someone would argue, well, there's some obscure guy in Japan or some obscure guy in Mexico that we're just not exposed to. I'm sure there is, but in terms of being in the big time, the spotlight, 100% agree with you. I was trying to go through, Gunther. I would agree. He's definitely up there for me. Our top 5. I would definitely, for me right now, I would have to put Seth Rollins up there when he is healthy. I would definitely have to put him near the top. Again, and then there's the guys like Pac. I think Pac is a phenomenal talent, right? Zack Sabre Jr. He's a phenomenal talent. Oh my God! Like, there's just so many, there's so many guys that, like, how do you even, like, as soon as you start listening and thinking and like rhyming them off, my list is definitely would be AEW top heavy for sure. Again, yeah, I guess this could be a whole other show to talk about, but right, because go down this rabbit hole. But yeah, maybe Swerve. He's Brian. See, like Brian Danielson, he's still up there. Again, we're going to see that. I mean, he's going to be headlining with Swerve Strickland at All In in London and Wembley coming up in the end of August. So again, he's right up there. I guess people could still argue, is Moxley up there on the list? I'm sure he's going to be up there on some people's list, right? So so again, that'd be interesting. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, we just really need to keep Ospreay healthy. because we can't have. I mean, AEW cannot have him out. You know, I kind of touched on. There's quite the extensive list that someone had posted today with the amount of injuries with AEW in the roster, and we saw this past week. Sky Blue was another casualty, I guess, with the ankle out. But I mean, if you go down that list, there's guys on the list that are on there, but they don't really say what the injuries are. Like, Miro's on the list. Is he hurt? Like, no, does anyone really know what's up with him? He's hurt, and of course we've got Kenny Omega's hurt. He's on that list as well, and it's just like a huge list. I was actually surprised at the guys and who are on the list. So hopefully we get some of these guys back soon, because again, if they start depleting the roster even more, that's going to be painful. But in terms of someone had posted, and I thought we could touch on. With mentioned here was some of the best AEW matches of 2024 so far. I know we're just halfway through, so someone kind of put together 4 matches as they thought were the top matches so far, and we can maybe chat about them and get your opinion, and maybe there's some other matches that you can think of that aren't on the list. They mentioned. It was Bryan Danielson versus Will Ospreay at AEW Dynasty. Also, Konosuke Takeshita versus Will Ospreay at AEW Revolution, and Sting and Darby Allin versus the Young Bucks at AEW Revolution, and they also put an MJF versus Will Ospreay for AEW Dynamite. So, I mean, yeah, those are all 4 great bangers. I mean, would you? I know, I guess it's hard to think about some of the matches because there has been a lot of good matches. Would you agree? I mean, with that list, that Bryan Danielson versus Ospreay, Kaneshka versus Ospreay, Sting and Darby versus the Young Bucks, and MJF and Will Ospreay again this past week. Would you agree that those would be in a top 4, or that some of the top matches you think of?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the list right now, I can see why some of them could be on the list. I can see why they just automatically just put that Will Ospreay MJF match in there, and I don't know. I don't know about the Sting, Darby Allin, the Young Bucks. Maybe they put it in there just because of the whole Sting retiring kind of thing. So they're like, well, we got to put Sting in there. I mean, it's his last pay-per-view, all this stuff, and but I don't know. I mean, I'm going right now over all these pay-per-view cards right now, and I mean,
which one would be on my list?
Yes,
Edge versus Christian, when Edge beat Christian, and I think it was in Toronto when they did that match, and they were about to put the hockey jerseys on, and they just went nuts. I thought that was the I Quit match. I thought that was a phenomenal match as well.
Yeah,
for sure. I would put that with a top 5 for 2024. But in terms of, I guess you have to say, like, okay, what's the criteria, right? So, I mean, yes, in terms of, again, you've got the nostalgia, you've got a retirement match, the hype, with the Sting and Darby, and don't forget that the crazy stunts that Darby did, like crashing through the glass, like that was insane. So there's some insane spots. The crowd was nuts. It was like a farewell. So again, if someone's like, well, technically it wasn't, okay, it wasn't. But if you're looking at it as a spectacle, an event, you know what I mean, going down as a historic kind of moment in AEW, then yes, that would be on the list for me as well. But yeah, I mean,
going through all the pay-per-views, I mean, even something like a Dynasty, like AEW Dynasty had some really good matches in there. I mean, looking at the card, I mean, that AEW Continental match with Okada and Pac was a great match. I bar none, that was the best opening match on a pay-per-view. Obviously, I enjoyed it. And then, obviously, on that pay-per-view, you also had Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly for the international title. That was a great match. Then you had, again, that Ospreay versus Danielson match that we just mentioned. And then, obviously, the Swerve Strickland and Samoa Joe match was not that bad of a match. at Dynasty. Again, it could have been better, but it was not that bad of a match. Dynasty was a very good pay-per-view, and it had a lot of good matches in it. Double or Nothing, I mean, had some great matches in that card, sans the TBS title, because it felt like we all knew that Mercedes Moné was going to win that title regardless. But again, the Ospreay Roderick Strong opening match, was another good banger on that pay-per-view. You had Moxley versus Takesha. It wasn't a bad match at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then, obviously, the unfortunate event of the barbed wire steel cage match with Adam Copeland and Malachi Black, regardless of what happened after,
That was
of the
yeah.
injury, that
I,
was a
I
really good match.
I like that as well. Yeah, that was a really
Yeah.
good match. I agree. That had some really good moments in it too.
And the Christian Cage Swerve match for the title on that pay-per-view was fantastic.
That was actually really good. I mean, yeah, you're right. You could do. I mean, they're listing 4, but I think if we actually spend time and you went through it, we could easily put together a top 10. And they're all really killer matches. Now, as you're going through it, I know and I kind of brought it up, and you weren't 100% sure if it was a 2024 match. Was it like the Texas death match, with Hangman and Swerve, right, with the staples and the blood?
Yeah.
Do you, as you're scrolling through, do you see that at all as a 2024?
No, I believe that, if I remember, that was the full year 2023. That now that I'm thinking about it, I can say for 100%, 99.9% sure that was full year 2023. But even that was a great match. I mean, it really pushed that feud, and everything like that. But I mean, even at, again, and they're missing a lot of the other pay-per-views that are on here. Obviously, Forbidden Door, you're always going to have some decent matches with the mix of, this year you had both CMLL, AEW, and New Japan kind of all mixed together in this pay-per-view with Forbidden Door. I mean, the men's Owen Hart Cup match with Shingo and Bryan Danielson, awesome match. I mean, even the main event of Swerve versus Ospreay, obviously, is definitely on there for that Forbidden Door. I mean, honestly, I don't know how you don't add that to the list of one of the good matches of 2024. So I mean, right there and then you're missing some of those pay-per-views as well.
Yeah, it's I can see. I wonder if because I did see I guess it's in the news, and I don't know if it's a rumor, but it looks like it's AEW is getting closer to have some kind of a partnership with Warner Brothers and on one of their platforms, which would see AEW content being available, kind of like how WWE would have available. Like maybe that's when, like, what the plan is when they're going to be hitting Netflix and have a lot of their content available on Netflix. But yeah, and I kind of feel like it's if AEW is starting to getting enough content, they can start doing like their top tens. And I used to love this. I used to love that when you used to be able to rent like videos, VHS, right? Like especially Coliseum videos with WWF. They would have those great video, cassettes with like the best matches, or from that, or even on the network, on the WWE network, they'd say that when it come time towards SummerSlam, they'd have like the best matches of all the SummerSlams, kind of leading up to it. So I kind of hope, like, eventually there's more content, and there's a platform that you can start putting together the best matches of this, or the best matches of 2024, the best matches of 2023. I mean, unless it's somewhere on YouTube and I just haven't seen it. But I think once you start kind of grouping them and then reminding people of like how great some of these matches were throughout, from the I guess the 5-year history so far. But you know what? You can, whatever anyone says, AEW has delivered some of the best matches I've ever seen ever in professional wrestling. Casey, and again, you've got the trolls and everybody who still go all was it like the new one I heard was like all empty wrestling, right? I was like, they're just trying to now, like if you said, all of a sudden every single week everyone is such a mark to know, like, viewership was up. Was it a full sellout? All of a sudden, right? Those numbers and those things seem to matter more than ever. And people have to make comments like, look at AEW can't even sell out one of the best matches, Ospreay and MJF, and they had to take the shot of the hard cam side when it was out. But I mean, it's kind of true in a way. I'm surprised that some of these cities aren't selling out more when there's some big matches. So I know we touch on it every once in a while, but kind of mention it. And I mean, is it getting oversaturated? Is it too much wrestling? Is it? Oh, you're disappearing.
Oh, sorry, I was rubbing my eye. I had something in my eye. Sorry, continue.
No, I was going to say, why do you think that's happening? I mean, are they going to? Do they need to go back to small arenas? And I think they went to a small arena this past week with Rampage. It looked like a smaller spot, right? So I get it. I mean, it's really a TV product, and I get that. And as long as it looks good, as long as they fill up the one side, as long as they've got the lights, they've got the matches. It's all about TV and it's all about ratings, right? It's a TV. It's a produced television show. So as far as that goes, I mean, is that more important, right? To have a presentation and to have it versus a full arena. I don't know. If you've got some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, look at something. I bring this up all the time. Look at something like TNA. I mean, TNA has been around since 2002, and they perform in small arenas, and they perform. I mean, this past weekend they did, Slammiversary, and I believe they had 4,000 people show up there at that show, and I believe it was where you just said it, the city was in Montreal, and so I mean, even that's good for a company like that that's been around for a long time. I mean, something like an OVW, they don't have a big arena in Louisville, but they still sell out every show. And even if it's like 100 people, that's the sellout show for OVW, and they're still going strong. So someone like AEW, I mean, you see how AEW kind of, especially that collision that happened with the debut of Hologram and everything like that. I mean, it looked good the way that arena was set up, with that show. It still looked like a decent show. They still had the bang for their bucks with entrances, all that stuff, and the presentation, even that size of arena. And so I think it's good that, I mean, let AEW do whatever they want to do as far as where their shows are going to be held. Something like All In, that they're going to sell that gate out at All In, especially since it was so successful last year, that you're still going to get at least 60 to 70,000. Even though people want to say, oh, well, WrestleMania gets over 150. Well, that's 2 nights.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 nights combined of ticket sales. So, of course, they're going to get that many during 2 nights, which is great for them as well. Like, I'm not against that either. Let them sell out each night of the show. That's fine, but that's 2 nights. You can't compare apples to oranges when a show has 1 night and another show has 2. They're gonna outsell a lot of seats than the other show because they're doing 2 nights of it. So the whole argument on each side of the aisle is ridiculous. So that's why I'm saying I'm okay with AEW doing shows wherever they are, as long as the arena and everybody inside that arena is having fun with it. Who cares if they sell out or not?
Yeah, and then a lot of time there's some good crowd involvement, right? So that's all what matters. And I think that you get handed to a lot of the AEW crowds is they're also vocal enough that there's still, it creates a good atmosphere, right? And then to your point, I mean, you're trying to compare WrestleMania. WrestleMania has been around for over 40 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've had that way longer history. And again, there's a ton of WrestleManias that were still in just normal arenas. That there was years that they were just selling out maybe 20,000 people. They weren't all stadium and huge shows, right? They've had their ups and downs in terms of capacity and attendance, right? So it's but I think that show, if we go back to just touch on the TNA, I mean, I saw some great pictures, and like that show would have been awesome to be at, and Montreal crowd, they'd be so into it, especially TNA crowds are really into it in a very small, intimate way. And then put into a 4,000 seats like stadium, like an event like that. So I think that was great. And I mean, if you want to touch on with TNA, with again the guys who leave some of these big organizations, you got the Dolph Ziggler or Nick Nemeth, leaving WWE. He's won 3 titles in the past year, right? From all over the place, since, and then he went from being this kind of washed up guy who was a, like almost like enhancement talent to help other guys get over, and maybe good on him if he was like, I'm done. I'm going to move on. And look what he's done, right? So good on him, and he looks great. He looks phenomenal. And it just kind of shows too, it also shows the overall health of professional wrestling today. When you've got TNA doing a 4,000 seat, show like that, right? I know that Slamboree or
Slammiversary.
Slammiversary. So I know that's their signature event, right? That's their annual. That's a big one for them. But good on them, right? I mean, that just, and I love it because again, there's such a crowd for professional wrestling who might be like, yeah, I like this, like that, but they love TNA, and good for them, right? So was really happy to see that. And again, just like everyone says, and Canadian fans always come and represent, and we've heard that time and time again, right, from other wrestlers who love and have always said Canadian fans have always shown up. They're always loud. They're always participating. So I want to maybe go back and watch some of that because I'm sure it would be super entertaining to watch. But no, it'd be great to watch there. So again, if you want to, tomorrow night, it's going to be a big show again for Dynamite, which some say like, why isn't this kept for a pay-per-view? If it was a WWE event, it was 100% would be a pay-per-view or a premium live event, which is the Blood and Guts, right? It's that double cage. Which has this been a pay-per-view match before, and then they moved it? Like, was the first one a pay-per-view match, or has it always been on Dynamite?
I can't for the life of me. If Connor was here, he would know. He knows everything. But I think it might have been just a regular. It might have been introduced as a match on AEW. Let me see here. Blood and Guts. All right. So the first one was on May 5th, 2021, and that was a Daly's Place. So it looks like it might have been a TV debut.
They did a Daly's
Place? A special episode, promotion's flagship weekly program, Dynamite. So they did it. So this will be the fourth one. So the first one was 2021. That included the Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle. 2022, you had the Jericho Appreciation Society and the Blackpool Combat Club. And then Eddie Kingston, Santana Ortiz. That's the one where Eddie Kingston threw Sammy Guevara off the top.
Right.
2023, you had the Golden Elite versus the Blackpool Combat Club and PAC. And then this year, obviously, you have the Elite versus Team AEW.
Which one was it that MJF threw Jericho off the top?
That was the very first one. It is the only one that MJF was a part of, was that very first one.
And that was at Daly's Place?
Yes.
I'm trying to think how it would even be set up at Daly's Place. I got to go back and look at that because I remember watching it, but was that during the pandemic?
No, it was way after.
Yeah.
Because it was May of 2021. It was a year after the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
Because everything shut down in February of 2020, and then everything started slowly opening back up in like January, February of 2021.
Right. Oh man, yeah, I can't believe how long ago the pandemic was. Like, I just go back and watch some of this stuff. But yeah, no, it's gonna be interesting. I know it's going to be a good. It's going to be a good match, and we talked about it, and we were right on our prediction. We said, hey, Hangman's going to join the Elite in at least this match. So we don't know for sure, unless I've missed something on a Collision or Rampage, if he said anything. But I think it makes sense for Hangman to join, and he's got that mean streak going on. and Magnum TA mustache and the look. I still can't get over. I keep on thinking of Magnum TA every time I see him. But this one's it should be a good match for tomorrow night. I um, I still think the Elite's going to come out on top.
Yeah, I don't know how they can let the Elite lose 2 in a row, especially big matches like that with the whole Anarchy in the Arena and then Blood and Guts and have them lose both. It's going to have to take someone like a returning Kenny Omega to finally put an end to what the Elite are doing in AEW. I feel like this Elite storyline is, and I'm not trying to say it's copying it, but it's very close to what they did for a few years with the Bloodline. That the Bloodline basically reigned WWE. Now you got the Elite running AEW. But only during certain segments. It's not like they run the whole show. They have their moments with Mercedes Moné and all that stuff, but they're not predominantly shown and pretty much put front and center. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think the Elite loses this one. It'd be nice to see maybe AEW pull through on this one, even up, and have one more match to kind of finish it up. But I don't know where you go after Blood and Guts, So maybe Team Elite wins and nobody can stop them unless it's a returning Kenny Omega.
I can hand it to it. I like. I do appreciate the fact that AEW is still continuing on and bringing up the feud with Swerve and Hangman. That they haven't let that die out. There's breaks with it, but then it still gets ignited. That reminds me of that old like 80s, feuding, right? Where you had the territories you'd hear, you know what I mean, like the Freebirds and the Von Erichs, and you'd always have like Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair or Steamboat and Flair, and there'd be many matches, right? And it never really ended. Like they would just kind of always go back to it every once in a while. So I do like that they're keeping it, right? And even if like one of the guys like Hangman's been out for a while, even if there's storylines going around, they still manage to connect it, or there's still that hate for each other. So I kind of like it. I like that they haven't, and they're really, I think that they're trying to make this one of the best feuds in wrestling. Right. And I think they've done it with some great matches, having, and they having either and I think great feuds are great when, the guys change who's the baby face and the heel as well. Right. And you keep the feuds going, even though they've changed sides like this, in this case, right now you've got Hangman, who's this fucking crazy animal coming in, versus Swerve, who's still kind of crazy, but he is the champion and he's the baby face for all intents and purposes at the moment. But I like that. I do like that they bring it back. I still think this is neat. Now that you've got them back and they're in a cage again, like, you know what I mean? They're still doing shit. They're still crazy shit. They're still going to be part of a match. So I do like that. Now, where does this go? That's interesting, right? We've got their Blood and Guts. Then is there another pay-per-view before All In? After the Blood and Guts, which is a pretty big match. I know it's not a pay-per-view and it's just a Dynamite, but it's still a special.
Now it'd be Blood and Guts, All In, and then it'd be All Out.
Okay.
So I mean that's basically what it'd be. Everything like that. Yeah, I can't think of what's after All Out. I believe it's Full Gear in November. I believe would be after All Out in September. So those would be the next ones, and then Full Gear, and then I believe maybe World's End, because I can't remember if there's anything between. No, wouldn't it be? Yeah, no, it would be World's End, because it would go Blood and Guts, and then All In, then All Out, then Full Gear is usually in November, and then December is usually World's End.
Yeah, as long as they don't start doing more and more pay-per-views. Well, I guess the way they're getting around that is by utilizing Dynamite for special events instead of making it all pay-per-view, kind of like what WWE has always done in terms of their kind of a recipe, where everything is leading up to the pay-per-view. All storylines are kind of geared towards the next pay-per-view. So kind of like that they're actually utilizing. So, which to me is it reminds me of like a Eric Bischoff. The way that he used to view and used, Monday Nitro, right, where he had some of the big matches. Like when like example comes to mind when you had Goldberg versus Hogan in the
Mhm.
Georgia Dome, right? And some people are like, why is this not a friggin' pay-per-view and the money that we could have made from it? But again, he kind of had that tip. That's why this kind of move reminds me of that. Like TK is more like, hey man, no, it's all about we need the weekly ratings are just as important, right? To the network, to the money, to the advertisers, to the executives, to keep these numbers up, right? And that's the way Bischoff looked at it, is he needed to keep those numbers up on a weekly basis. So kind of
Mhm.
I see, so that to me, I mean, I'm sure someone would argue and say, no, that's not the case at all, or no, it's very different. But I don't see it that way. I still see it. Hey, you got ratings, you got to keep those ratings up, you got to keep the networks happy, and you got the viewership, and it's all about the ratings, right? So I don't know.
Right.
I mean, how do you feel about that? Where like TK putting on some of these big matches, to keep the viewership up on a weekly, cable show.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we talk about the whole opening match between Osprey and MJF. I mean, that's definitely a grabber. That I think that was, and it was a special Dynamite because it was the 250th episode. So you got to do something to kind of grab the audience and kind of grab those ratings for a special like that. Um, and something that it's very hard when you do TV to kind of sell the audience, but don't oversell the audience. I think that match did quite enough because now, hey, now you got something going with a story of where do these two guys go? Because we already know Pac already said it at All In he wants the challenge for the international title, no matter who the champion is. I think we'll still get a good match between Pac and MJF. I know I've been reading stories about, hey, what's another way we can sell All In? Maybe have Will Ospreay say, I don't know what else to do. I've lost 2 in a row. I've lost my belt. I don't think I'm that good anymore. Maybe I'm just, slowing down. So at All In, if anybody wants to wrestle me, I'll be there. And then maybe at All In, you have a surprise opponent for Will Ospreay. Someone like a rumor I've been hearing is Ricochet. Maybe Ricochet comes to AEW and him and Ospreay have a banger of a match at All In. And maybe those rumors float around, and that kind of gives people at in the UK going, "Oh crap! What if Ricochet comes to All In? Like we got to go to the show. Him and Will Ospreay would be a banger of a match." But when it comes to like TV, like grabbing, like making sure that they're not overstimulating the product on TV for free, you're still going to get those buy rates. And in the end, that's what the networks are looking at is, hey, can we get the views? Can we, do so well that we can keep this product? And I think everything that just happened just now with Warner Brothers and I think it was the NBA or the Olympics or something they just signed a deal with. I believe it was the NBA. They just signed a new deal with. I think they would want to keep both. I think they would want professional wrestling and the NBA. Because I think right now those two can grab something for TNT and
Mm-hmm.
TBS.
Yeah, it's interesting. Actually, you brought up Ricochet. People actually thought that hologram was Ricochet, and so
Yep,
he had to
not
go
him.
online. It's funny. He's like, it's not me, guys. He's a little shorter, and please, God, no, I can't lose any more height. And so he was like, no, great talent, but no, it wasn't me, guys. That'd be interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, we've been talking about what the possible card is now for All In, and now that MJF has the international title, who could he possibly face? I mean, I know you mentioned there that you're thinking, hey, why not have a possibility of Osprey? If a Ricochet comes in, right? I know that would be a banger of a match, and those guys obviously have had lots of matches together over the years. Obviously, when they're younger, and I'm sure they would be all for it and put on an amazing match. Now, but again, there wouldn't be anything. There's nothing there for Osprey to gain in terms of a title, right? So, do we see a rematch and have Osprey beat MJF and get the title back, or is MJF going to be? You can see MJF versus like a Danny Garcia. right? Because there's that side storyline. Even during the match, and if you noticed, he made a couple of references to Danny Garcia during his match with Osprey, right?
Mhm.
So it's not like MJF's forgetting about Danny either. And then that would also have that, that revenge match. So that would actually mean something because there is a bit of a storyline behind it. Because I think right now maybe Danny's out. I think still just kind of like he's nursing his injuries, or he's been out on with injury, getting destroyed by MJF. So could we see a Danny Garcia versus MJF at All In? Would that make sense, or is that a big enough match? For
I would say
MJF.
all out. I think right now the story they go in, I mean, they've already set it up to have, Pac challenge it all in. Maybe MJF retains again with something of like a cheat, and then Daniel Garcia returns it all in to exact his revenge on MJF, and they have the match set up for all out. I know we had mentioned this. I can't remember where. Maybe on my show, maybe on my Talking Leap where we talked about that of the build of all in and all out since they're 2 weeks, 3 weeks apart. That you can carry over from all in to all out. And that the fact that we did enjoy that they didn't bring Daniel Garcia back during that opening match of MJF and Will Ospreay because it would have been too soon. And I think it would be a perfect time to have Pac almost be there for the international title, and then MJ just stealing his way from it, and having Daniel Garcia come back, kind of get his revenge on MJF, and MJF and him having a match at All Out. To which case, maybe Ospreay comes in and costs MJF the title, and we may finally see Daniel Garcia win the international title at All Out. And then again, you could have the rehash of a MJF Will Ospreay match without the title, because their first go around for the title was great. I think the second match would be even better.
Could you see possibly, because again, now going back, and you mentioned the Elite, and we haven't really talked about the Elite and what that looks like because they've been doing a lot of stuff together, so they haven't really been defending like the Young Bucks, for example, haven't really defended their titles separately, right? They've been doing a lot of matches together, like trios matches or like this at Blood and Guts. So their titles haven't really been on the line. Now, could we see? I mean, Okada is going to put his title, his Continental title, like he's got that. So could we see like an Osprey versus Okada for the title, and keep on, and then have him even win that title?
I mean, it's possible. It all depends on what they want to do with the again the Continental Classic next year, because again that title will be on the line during that tournament and can change hands at any point. So I mean, it all depends on what they want to do if they come next year. I mean, do they let Okada hold on to it until the next a Continental Classic tournament and maybe have Will Ospreay beat him for the title in the finals? I mean, who knows? I mean, that's another thing. It all depends on how where Will Ospreay wants to do with basically where they want to go with Will Ospreay and what he wants to do. Does he want another title? Does he just want to wrestle banger matches? It basically, he has the love for the sport, and he's going to basically do what's going to be best for the product. And if it's not having a title and just wrestling great matches, then so be it. I think he understands that. So again, it all depends on what they want to do creatively with the Continental title.
Now, is there a chance that maybe if you've heard any feedback, and I have no idea about the return possibility of Kenny Omega and what that looks like? I know he kind of came back for a little bit, just to kind of do a I think he came back because he was in Winnipeg, just to kind of show face, and then he was out again. I mean, I think because of kind of how it ended. I mean, if he was able to be back, I mean, I could definitely see Kenny Omega and Jack Perry for the TNT title, right? Because the way that ended, kind of get a bit of revenge back for on the Elite. So that could be an interesting. I mean, there's so many possibilities, and now, which I really like. We did see this past week is the Patriarch wins the trios title, which I like because I actually think I love Christian, right? I know we've talked about Christian. We love Christian's character. I think he did great. What he did for the TNT title, and I think this crew. I think it's a perfect to have them hold it. I get it because he's a great mouthpiece. We were even talking the weeks that it's like what's happening with these trios titles, and they're just kind of put to the wayside. I think that you're really going to see some prestige kind of come back to it, right? Because Christian's is a perfect mouthpiece for those titles right now, and I think they could. There's some good. I mean, there's some good matches. You could even see, I don't know, like even a triple threat for the trios at All In, right? Because they're trying to get. You could have like again, you've got the Bang Bang Gang, versus versus the Patriarch, even versus the House of Black, right? Because again, remember, Buddy, the Patriarch, they put Buddy out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Buddy Matthews. So again, there's some animosity that they've created there in the storyline. So you could have a really cool three-way match for the trios titles, even with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
As a big match, and that way you would really incorporate a lot of good wrestlers into a meaningful match. So I don't know. How do you feel and see the trios titles now? Now that the patriarchy has them.
I like it. I like the fact that Nick Wayne, at his young age, finally holds a title. He's very young. I love that Luchasaurus finally has a title around him, and I mean, maybe they are saving this group. At some point we thought that, hey, maybe Luchasaurus would leave the group just based on how that story was going, where Christian was kind of throwing him off to the side. It's like, oh, nice painting, but wait, Nick, oh, this was awesome. Like, that moment was great. Like, and just saying like you failed me and all that, but now they have the titles. So, it's going to be very interesting to see where they go with the patriarchy as the trios champions. I think this sets up a beautifully returned matchup between them and maybe the House of Black. If again, I believe Buddy Matthews' write-off was just so he can go and marry and spend his honeymoon with Rhea. I think that's why they wrote him off for it, is because he wanted time away for his new bride. So maybe they bring him back and reignite that flame and feud between the patriarchy and House of Black.
Yeah, no, I like this. And someone had pointed out, and I wouldn't have remembered this, that Luchasaurus or Switchblade or whatever is it, or whatever his name is, he's a Triple Crown champion now.
Yeah.
Because he had the TNT title, he had the tag titles, and now he's got the trios.
Yes.
So he's silently probably done more than most wrestlers in AEW have, right? In terms of his accomplishments, right? He's and you know what? I got to hand it to AEW. The one thing they always do really well is they don't rush storylines. Where
Right.
like WWE always, I don't know how many times people complain that WWE blows up groups and storylines way too quickly. Where you could have, like, I don't know how many times I hear a storyline. They're like, oh man, we could have got another year out of this. We could have totally, if we were together, we would have, accomplished so much. Kind of that lately what people are talking about, obviously, but with Bobby Lashley, not re-signing with WWE, and also with MVP not, being part of being removed also from the website as an active roster, and people are like, hey man, everyone's was like the hurt business was killed way too early. There should have Sheldon Benjamin on there as well. People are like, hey, AEW, like if you could get these guys and get the Hurt back together as a run. I mean, I love the Hurt. I thought the Hurt business could have gone way further. I was really disappointed when they broke it up. They should have kept it going a hell of a lot longer. I don't know what your thoughts are. I mean, do you see that as a possible talent? Because again, everyone's like, I mean, I know everyone's like, almost as soon as someone leaves WWE, the first thing people think is like, is he AEW bound, right? But which again, why not, right? I mean, you could see, and it looks like Bobby Lashley's probably fed up. He's hasn't been used, as well as he could have been. He had some great factions, but he had this faction. Like, what happened? He was just with the Street Profits. That little faction, and what happened to that? That just dissipated, and then they just kind of killed it. I mean, so I don't know what your thoughts are with, you say, with a Bobby Lashley, with a Sheldon Benjamin, with an MVP, all those guys leaving. Like, could you see a potential? You think, TK would jump on that, or is that
I don't
done?
know. Again, that just because I'm always with Connor on these kind of things of not signing too many people and bloating up the roster. But given the circumstances of like the injury bug hitting and, yeah, you got Copeland out, with an injury. You need also, you got Osprey, but only Osprey can do so much. MJF just returned. Like, I feel like you need just one more big name to kind of bring the eyes into AEW. I don't know if Bobby Lashley is going to be that. I see more of like a Ricochet being more utilized in AEW than a Bobby Lashley. Although that's not saying bad about Bobby Lashley. His run when he went to TNA for a while was really good. I mean, he was a 2 or 3-time TNA world champ when he was over there, or when they were known as Impact. He was the Impact champion, Impact Global, whatever. They had that partnership,
Mm-hmm.
So, and then he went back to WWE and found success over there. So I don't know. And then again, you got MVP who, he's been hurt, and I don't know if he's going to be able to get in the ring again, just based on his age and his injury bug and all that stuff. And yeah, no, I with Bobby Lashley, you never know where he's going. Maybe he goes back to TNA. I think the way TNA is right now, I mean, and their partnership with WWE, I mean, we just saw Nick Nemeth win the TNA title. They also just came out saying that they're allowing wrestlers to trademark their own names now, and when they leave, they can keep those names. This is from TKO. They said that said we trademark these names, but once that contract's over with you, you could take that name with you wherever you go. So I mean, look at that. Maybe now Nick Nemeth is like, maybe he goes back to WWE with that partnership with TNA. And Bobby Lashley just goes to TNA, so he's still technically kind of close by with WWE, but not really. So yeah, I don't know where he'll end up. I mean, and he's also up there. He's at that age where he can't do it forever, and he's done it for a long time. And so I mean, we just got to wait and see.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. That'd be really interesting to see Nick Nemeth appear in WWE with as the TNA champion, right? Coming back,
Yeah,
a new character, new status. That would be really interesting. Now, again, what I mentioned about MVP, I'm only thinking of MVP as a mouthpiece as a manager. I like him as a manager. I don't want to see him back in the ring. I'm a big fan of managers, and I think he's got a good mouthpiece, and I think he could represent some guys well. Um, yeah, you're right. I mean, maybe Bobby Lashley could go back to a TNA, and you put him right up there with Moose. Like, you can put like you. There's a lot going on, man. Geez, like, I don't think there's any more. The possibilities are endless these days, right? In terms of where guys can go, and even the start and do the circuit. That some of these guys are like, fuck it, I'll go on the indie circuit, make some cash, move around, and then figure out what I want to do. Create a new character, like Moxley did, Namath did, right? So I mean, to think about some of these guys, if you think about it, like Ricochet's probably looking like what these guys are doing. Bobby Lashley's like, look at Nick went from the bottom of the barrel. Like I just said, he's enhancing talent to, what, guys, I'm out of here. I still have life in me, and I can still be the showstopper. And he
mm-hmm.
does. Let Bobby Lashley. What if he goes to New Japan, right? Like, he goes to Mexico. Like, you never know. They seem to be able to move around quite frequently now to get their names out there. And why not rebuild themselves, right? Maybe start a new character, just learn a new bit of new style. So I don't know. Again, I would like. I think everyone there is a big fan base for the hurt business. And I mean, I've been watching in some of these conversations on Facebook, and a lot of people are kind of agreeing in the same agreement, going, "Man, they should have left these guys together." People really liked Sheldon Benjamin, and who was the other guy that was with him?
Cedric Alexander.
Cedric Alexander. I mean, I didn't care for Cedric when he was by himself, but I liked him when he was part of the Hurt. the Hurt Business. And I
Mhm.
thought it was a great way to incorporate and keep Shelton Benjamin going as well. And I just love it. And I loved having MVP as a mouthpiece, and I love the suits. I love that class act. I mean, I thought that was great. Again, one of those things that WWE blew up too soon. So I guess going back to what I was saying about why, with the patriarchy, like I mean, you said, just to tie it back, that, oh man, like we thought for sure, the Luchasaurus would have lost his shit and broke away from the group, but he's still there, right? Every time you think, oh, is this it? Is this it? No, he's still there. And
Mhm.
now they won the trios, right? So, which is good. I like that. Keep the storylines going. Keep it going. And again, the Hangman and Swerve, they're still keeping that going. No matter what, they reignite every once in a while. They don't let it forget. They don't let it just dissipate, right?
Mhm.
So, which is just cool. So, again, as we get closer and closer to All In, what we'll see. I think after Blood and Guts, things are really going to come to light, right? Because then you've got now
Mhm.
that month kind of build up to it. So I think this is going to, like, okay, what's next? You've got the 205th episode out of the way. You've got the Blood and Guts out of the way. Now we're leading up to the big time, the big show, and who's it's going to be, right? We've had some titles change hands. So we'll see where we're going to go with that. And maybe have some guys come back from injuries, and then now I know whoever's maybe out with injury. So we'll see, but it's getting exciting. It's going to be exciting for the last over the last year. But again, I guess I was going to ask you about your show on Thursday. As we've just hit the hour mark here, but as you said, I guess you're not even sure if you're going to be doing your show potentially, right? As you get your bowling tournament.
Yeah, no, because we're supposed to drive up Thursday. So I don't know if I'll be able to do it. It all depends on what we're doing. I know we've been talking about possibly interviews coming up. I don't know if we've rescheduled that for Thursday. If we are, we can let people know. I'm actually talking to Connor right now to see if there's any announcements he wants me to make right now on the show. Because again, he couldn't make it tonight, you guys. Apologies. Connor always wants to be here because Connor's the grandfather and the godfather of this podcast. So we always love when he's on, and we always love. But yes, so he just messaged me. I guess I'll make the announcement Thursday. Instead of regular Talking Elite, we are going to have Barry Horowitz on Thursday as an interview.
Nice.
So anybody wants to tune in, ask questions, more than welcome to do that. And yeah, join us then. It'll be even me. I'll probably jump on my phone while I'm driving. Who knows?
Perfect. No, that sounds great. And again, and he is someone who is renowned for enhancing talent. That was obviously, he made a career out of it. And they also gave him a bit of a highlight reel, gave him a bit of a push there at the end. So, but no, that should be a good interview. I'm sure he's a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of stories. So yeah, so everyone tune in for that. So. But we'll wrap it up for another week here. Again, it's great to connect and have you co-hosting, Adam, and we can always talk for hours, and we always have lots to talk about here in the world of professional wrestling. And as like I mentioned, there we'll be able to kind of look back and see. And we'll talk about, I'm sure, Blood and Guts next week, and and then from there things will get a little clearer about as we head to the road to All In and what that looks like in terms of the card makeup, and then we'll still, I'm sure, be coming up with more predictions as we always do. We like to do that, which actually makes it really fun and interesting. So, but again, thanks again, Adam. It's always a pleasure, and thanks for everyone tuning in live and also watching after on the replay. Really appreciate it. Again, we're here every Tuesday night on YouTube. Please tell all your family and friends, like and subscribe. We always appreciate it. Thanks very much, everybody, and enjoy the rest of the week. And we'll see you next Tuesday. Take care. Thanks.